till 6 in the morning. Nothing wrong with going on at home. Tough to put the brakes on. Doesn't matter when you gotta get up. Go out, me and all my friends. Take up, fall down.
And welcome to week 2 of the Coach and Cruz Game Picks Show. So we survived week 1. We had a good week 1. It was fun week 1. And now we get more and more each and every week. This week, some of the ACC is welcomed in and some of the Big 12 is welcomed in as well. So we got some good things going on in the show. We're going to highlight 2 main games, but I think are going to be some of the more interesting games of the weekend. Florida State and Georgia Tech, and I'll get into more of that in a minute, as well as Coastal Carolina at Kansas. Both on the surface, you're like, whoa, neither one of these are any interesting. Well, my opinion might say otherwise, and it's just that, my opinion, but we're here to highlight what I feel are going to be some of the more intriguing games of the weekend. So we're going to do that. We also have our tradition coming up, our game day tradition, and as well as our picks of the week. As always, I represent a different shirt or products of a different school, so if you would like your school represented, get in contact with me and we'll work something out, and I will try to promote your school as well. So kids, today's show is brought to you by the letter U, as in upset, underdog, the U, or ATS. So we're here to talk about all 3, or 4, depending on how you count and how you spell. First off, the 2 games being profiled. Georgia Tech at Florida State. On the surface, it doesn't sound like much, but here's some of the interesting facts. Coach Norvell, new to Florida State, is coming from Memphis, keep in mind. So he's first-year head coach, and this past spring, he got 0 spring practices in. He didn't meet his squad physically in person till August. So yes, they're getting together, and yes, they are a higher quality program starting off. So his starting line is higher than where Coach Collins was with when he took over Georgia Tech last year. This is year 2 with Georgia Tech. So he's got a lot more ramping up to do. Having said that, I'm buying into hard about what he's to say. And it's only a matter of time before he starts surprising some people and starts making a name out of the 404, out of the ATL. And we're going to show some clips of each of their press conferences. The thing about Coach Norvell is he's keeping everything pretty tight-chested. And it's hard to get a read on him along the way. The other game we're going to profile is Coastal Carolina and Kansas. Kansas head coach Les Miles, I still believe he's a run-first person. They've switched OCs, and now they're supposed to be going spread. It's going to be an interesting to see how these play out along the way. And then Big South representative Coastal, they are running a spread offense. They did win in Lawrence last year, so it'll be an interesting mix. But so for starters, here's a little bit of the Clemson-Florida State matchup, and then a little bit about the Kansas and Coastal Carolina matchup.
Right now, the line opened at 11, and lines don't mean anything this early in the season. But if home field advantage is typically about a 5.5 pointer, 4.5 to 5.5 points in college, take that away because of the limited fans and such. You're looking at about But last year, Georgia Tech's biggest weaknesses were, and they admitted this themselves, on both the offensive and defensive lines. Is it safe to assume that's the key to the game, is just winning the line of scrimmage? Or is it something more in detail than that?
Well, yeah, usually for Florida State, it's all about controlling or winning the battle in the trenches. And I think Florida State right now has the advantage on the defensive side, obviously, based on who they have returning in Robert Cooper, Marvin Wilson, Corey Durden, Janarius Robb, and Joshua Kando. All that list of guys right there on that front line there are going to be huge. But once again, we don't really know what to expect out of this FSU offensive line because they haven't been consistent the past 3 years, or at least for the whole time I've been here at Florida State. So, once again, it's going to be another big question mark. But one other thing that I would look forward to as a key to victory for FSU, at least, or a key to this game, is penalties. And, like, I think I may have mentioned this before last time I was on, but Florida State has been one of the most penalized teams the past 2 seasons in college football. And if they can kind of settle that down and not have as many as they've had in the past, Florida State should win this ball game.
What will be the reason why Coastal wins Saturday night?
I think the reason will be a big part of why we won last year. That was ball control, time of possession. Coastal possessed the football for almost 35 minutes in last year's football game and nearly 13 minutes in the fourth quarter. At winning time, when the game was tight, going down the stretch, and we had to keep them off the field, which we did successfully. We were able to grind it out, hold the football, and make first downs, and keep them off the field, and run that clock out. So I think there are a lot of factors that can help us win. Not turning it over, making sure tackles in space, and all that other kind of stuff that coaches talk about. But I really think it will come down to us being able to possess the ball and keep them off the field when we need to, and solve the game away. So hopefully it'll play out that way.
And now it's time for our game day traditions featuring the letter U, as in the U of the Miami Hurricanes.
Miami's entrance. You've seen it before, and it never grows old.
When you talk college football dynasties, one can't get very far into the conversation without a mention of the Miami Hurricanes. 5 national championships between 1983 and 2001 pushed the Hurricanes to the top of college football, and a steady stream of All-Americans, future NFL superstars, and high-profile coaches made South Florida, and the country for that matter, familiar with one important phrase.
It's all about the U! It's all about the U! It's all about the U!
The University of Miami adopted the U as a logo in the early 1970s, but it didn't catch much notice immediately. The arrival, though, of a brash coach in 1979 changed all that. Howard Schnellenberger convinced top players to stay home in South Florida. Miami began to win, and win big. And with a swagger that matched the fast-paced, high-rolling Miami Vice decade of the 1980s, the Canes soon were the top of the world, and the U was the stuff of rap songs, T-shirts, and documentaries.
A lot of winning, attitude, big game. Big game. Miami was known for big games.
Without a doubt, the U's about attitude. We got them 5 championships. The Gators only got 3. So we got that swagger. They don't have that swagger. It's about an attitude. It's about when you take the field, it's no holds barred. We're just going to destroy you.
Presented by Coke Zero.
The first game on my predictions list is happening tonight on the ACC Network at 8 p.m. The UAB Blazers, coming in at 1-0, travel to the U, who we featured as our traditions of the week, the Miami Hurricanes. Dave O'Brien, Tim Hasselback, and Katie George are on the call. As much as I like UAB and rooting for them, I think they're going to be just fine in Conference USA. At the end of the day, I think Miami wins going away, 37-21 approximately, so I do have them covering the spread. Syracuse at North Carolina. Both ACC schools open their season against each other, where this game kicks off at 12 noon on the ACC network. Wes Durham, Roddy Jones, and Taylor Davis are on the call. I'll be the first to admit I have not put as much emphasis this season in profiling Orange football as I have other ACC schools or other schools in general. So you can argue I don't know as much about Syracuse, but at the end of the day, North Carolina is going to be about a top 15 school, and they've got the horses and the firepower on offense. Year 2 under Mac Brown, I see Carolina going away and winning this pretty Ragin' Cajuns come into Ames, noon on ESPN. Game is being called by Tom Hart, Mike Golick Sr., and Cole Kublik. I'm glad to see Golick is back in the announcing roles where I first saw him on ESPN 20-some years ago. I'm sure he doesn't like this travel as much, but that's beside the point. This could be one of those watch-out games, and there's going to be at least one upset this weekend, and it's going to be tough to figure out who we have. Iowa State's an 11.5 point favored. Its smart pick is probably stay safe and go chalk. This is going to be the one true major upset I have, with the Ragin' Cajuns coming out on top. Louisiana Monroe comes into Army West Point. This game will be played on CBS Sports at 1:30 p.m. Ben Holden, Ross Tucker, and Tina Servasio will be calling the game. I expect to see more hurry up, wishbone, Duke travel option, not ACC, but ACC conference opponent, at least for this year, Notre Dame in South Bend, Saturday at 2:30 on NBC. Mike Tirico, Tony Dungy, and Jack Collingsworth are calling the game. I'm sure there's a relationship there. I think I'm probably one of the ones that's probably bigger on Duke than anybody else. They have the transfer quarterback from Clemson now starting, for those of you who weren't aware. They have some pretty big wide receivers, and I think their offense is going to put up some numbers. At the end of the day, Ian Book and the rest of Notre Dame under head coach Brian Kelly might just be too much. I don't see this one being close. Probably something in the neighborhood of about a 14 to 15 point victory, but the line is 19.5, and I think Duke might squeak out with a cover, but they're not going to win. So look for Notre Dame to win, but a possible cover. But the Red Wolves of Arkansas State, who were impressive versus Memphis last week, now play their second road game in a row against Kansas State in Manhattan, Kansas. The game kicks off at 3:30. It's on Fox Sports 1. Calling the game will be Brian Custer and Robert Smith. I, for whatever reason, like Arkansas State. I just do. I can't understand why. I have no ties and no loyalties to them. I think Kansas State's moving in the right direction. This would be under second-year head coach from North Dakota State, where he won all the national championships. So I do see Kansas State winning, but low-scoring affair, and it'll be close to the end. And I see it less than as a 10-point victory for the Wildcats. In what I anticipate in being one of the two, whether it's better games, best games, close games of the week, Georgia Tech and Florida State open up their ACC play and season play in Tallahassee at Doak Campbell Stadium, ABC on 3:30. Our good friend, the voice of SEC for the longest time, and then briefly at Monday Night Football, Joe Tessitore is back in college football where he belongs, calling the game. Greg McElroy and Holly Rowe are on site with him as well, giving action. I like Coach Collins. I think Georgia Tech is trending in the right direction. Shame on me for saying that and drinking Kool-Aid when it's something I only know but so much about. Year 1 under Coach Norvell. Here's the one thing I can tell you about him. He keeps everything super close-chested. And it's been a real struggle to understand what all Florida State's been doing and not doing and so forth. I kind of think Georgia Tech is going to cover and keep it close. I still think Florida State has enough talent on the defensive side to stop Georgia Tech often. And I know Florida State has an All-American wide receiver in Tamarian Terry that might be the difference maker on the offensive side. So those two factors alone, I think Florida State wins. Georgia Tech, for now, we're going to say covers. Tulane at South Alabama could actually be one of the more entertaining games of this entire weekend. It just has the potential to steal the show for a lower tier game, if you will, or a middle tier game, because there really is no lower tier games this year. The game's in Mobile, so South Alabama's the home team. It's at 7:30 on ESPN2. Mike Kuzis, Dustin Fox, and Lauren Sisler are calling the game. South Alabama earned the Team of the Week honors by the Football Writers Association of America last week with their impressive performance last Thursday night that caused Southern Miss to fire their head coach, by the way. Tulane actually is more than just your older brother's Tulane Green Wave that usually wins 1 or 2 games per year. Tulane's actually going to hold their own this season. Having said that, I'm going to take a quote-unquote upset. Even though Tulane is the road favorite, I'm taking the home dog and taking South Alabama, not just with the cover, but to pull the upset along the way. And our second game of the week features the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers at the Kansas Rock Chalk Jayhawks. Late night start for this one, so West Coast Chris will like this game. Featured on Fox Sports 1, 10 p.m. kickoff in Lawrence. You can play the homer card here. Coastal went in last year and won in a very defensive battle. I don't know, just my gut tells me Kansas is just going to be struggling throughout the season. Les Miles seems slower and older now than even before. He doesn't seem like he's in Mad Hatter mode. Not only do I see Coastal covering, but I also have them win in a little bit more of a scoring match than last year's. I think Kansas will be able to run the ball, but I think at the end of the day, Coastal has just a little bit more, basically in a neutral field setting, than Kansas has to offer.